But we'll go ahead and get started since it's 3 o'clock where we are, even though you're 30 seconds behind us. But I am Katie Vernoy. I'm the president of CAMFT, and with me I have Catherine Leff, our president-elect, and Nabil El Garouri, our executive director. And we are talking today about the bylaws amendments that are in your voting material so that you can vote to help us start improving our bylaws. So to get started, I just really want to acknowledge and thank the bylaws committees and the boards from the last 8 years, because they have done a lot of really great hard work on this, reviewing and editing the bylaws. The most recent board and I and Nabil and everybody started talking through what changes and really we got a prioritized bylaw package that was sent to the membership in early 2020. So that is something that will be in your mailboxes soon if you haven't already seen it. And there are 7 amendments that have been prioritized and recommended. And there are nearly 400 edits in the full package. So we weren't ready for that. So we are going to do 7 amendments so that we can really reinforce the trust that you have in us, and to really make sure that we've got a smaller, more comprehensible package that can get the most vital changes passed immediately, especially because we want to get electronic voting and electronic transmission of information so that the rest of the bylaws changes, the rest of the 400 edits that we want to make, can be really understood and read by the membership, and so that people can know what they're voting on and do it in a very, very real way. And so today, we're going to be talking through just the 7 changes. You can view the full bylaws red lines at camft.org/bylaws process, or you can just go to the CAMFT website and search for bylaws. But for today's purposes, please ask questions and put those questions in the comments all the way through as we go along, because there's a delay, we won't be able to answer questions immediately, but we're going to go through all 7 of the recommended changes, and then we'll answer questions. And then, like I said before, if you're watching this in the replay and you have questions, please tag @CAMFT for any of the questions that you have so that we can come back afterwards and make sure that we've answered everything. Okay, so it's like 3:02, so I think we've caught up, and it's after 3 o'clock, and so I'm going to have Catherine go ahead and start with the first bylaws amendment.
Thank you, Katie. This one has to do with our new membership category called affiliate member. This is a simple clarification title given the recent change from intern to associate through the Board of Behavioral Sciences. It is to change associate membership title to affiliate. On a daily basis, CAMFT staff is refunding money to pre-licensed members choosing the wrong membership category based on this confusing membership title. So we'll have associate members, which were previously interns, and then the new category, affiliate member, for those who are not necessarily LMFTs, but want to be a member of our wonderful organization here at CAMFT. So for the next bylaw change amendment, Nabil, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So I'm talking about the emeritus membership status. So it came to our attention in late 2018 that the IRS does not allow nonprofit organizations, including 501c6 organizations like CAMFT, to charge no or minimal dues to some members and not to others, all of whom having the same rights and benefits in the organization. The IRS views doing this as a breach on the prohibition on private inurement. Since emeritus members have voting rights and the same privileges and member benefits, CAMFT, as well as outside legal analysis, believes it is a violation to charge emeritus members no dues when other members pay for the same rights and benefits. As a result, CAMFT had 2 options. 1, to eliminate the emeritus membership category itself, or 2, to remove the language stating that the emeritus membership is free. After a lengthy discussion, the Bylaws Committee and the board voted to maintain the emeritus category, preserve their voting rights, and remove the language stating that the membership is free. So I'll hand off to Katie for the 3rd bylaws amendment.
So the 3rd bylaws amendment is changing language throughout the document to allow for electronic transmission. It basically gives us the opportunity to add electronic transmission and or to do stuff in lieu of paper. So it's truly an opportunity to cut down costs and to make us greener. There's also a lot of staff time when we have to send mailers out. So the ability to do electronic transmission in addition to or in lieu of paper is what this is going to happen all the way throughout the document. It just says electronic transmission. So fourth one, Catherine.
Thank you, Katie. This has to do with our current 6-month grace period and paying our membership dues. So to remove the 6-month grace period that members currently have to pay their membership dues is what we're proposing. In 2009, the board voted to remove this payment provision from the bylaws. The current grace period is inherently unfair in that paying members only receive 12 months of benefits, but those that do not pay their membership in a timely fashion get an additional 6 months of free services. Also, on average, 3,200 members are utilizing the 6-month grace period, and approximately $465,000 is going uncollected as dues being outstanding. So this is just a change that we feel is fair, and it will also help with our budgeting decisions. So take it away, Nabil. Do you want to do bylaws?
Sure.
Number 5?
So bylaws amendment number 5 is electronic voting. So this bylaws amendment would add language to include electronic voting in addition to paper ballots. And this will allow for a more green and efficient process of obtaining member votes on board elections and bylaws amendments. Also added is language from the Corporations Code regarding vote counting and ballot retention requirements for additional transparency to the member on California law. So number 6, Katie.
Sure, and just a quick reminder for those of you who are watching who have questions, please type any questions you have into the comments and we will be sure to answer those when we finish getting through the next 2 bylaws amendments. So number 6 is Board of Directors composition. And this one is something where it's pretty intense, so I'm going to read it instead of trying to say it out loud. So this amends and clarifies existing language in the bylaws to clarify what the practice of health is when limiting the board composition to 2 members that are duly licensed LMFT and secondary license to practice health. It wasn't defined well. The purpose of this section in general is to ensure that the board is made up of MFTs who are focused and dedicated to MFT issues. That's what our organization is for. This bylaw clarifies that the dual licensure exclusion only applies to duly licensed folks who have active, not retired or abandoned, secondary licenses such as psychologist, clinical social worker, professional clinical counselor, psychiatrist, psychiatric nurse practitioner, or psychiatric physician assistant. So with this bylaw change, people who allow their secondary license to lapse or go inactive will not be counted as duly licensed for the purpose of this section. On to the last one.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So the last bylaws amendment has to do with Robert's Rules of Order, which is what the board follows during our board meetings. So what this would do would amend the existing language to add in the requirement that CAMFT follow California law. Second Amendment allows the board to create special rules of order to effectively and efficiently run a meeting. This practice has already, though, been in effect for the last 6 years. For example, we no longer have to stand up each time we talk at a board meeting. We don't have to do multiple votes to undo an original motion. So this amendment is really more procedural than anything. And so it's just, clarifying that we don't have to follow it, specifically. So, so that wraps up our 7 amendments.
And so if you have questions, please make sure to put them in the comments. We will make sure to answer all the questions that come in. And a reminder, if you're watching the replay, hit @CAMFT and make sure that we get the gist of your questions so we can make sure to answer it afterwards. And I think, Nabil, we're going to talk about kind of some questions we've often gotten in talking about these.
Sure. Well, I just want to acknowledge, reminder that we have that 30-second lag. So
Yeah.
if you type a question, we won't see it for 30 seconds, at least. And then we're also relying on someone else to type it in. So give us a minute. I want to say hi to some members who I see have joined us. Hi to Nazala, and hi to Maureen, and hi to James. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hi, Kurt. Hi, Maureen. Hi, James.
One question we have is,
Hi, Holly.
why can't emeritus members be free? They've worked hard and deserve it in their retirement. So do one of you want to handle that, or you want to let me field it?
Sure, I can take it, and you can help me if I get lost here. We definitely appreciate our emeritus members, and we want to make sure that we take care of them. But the law is pretty clear that we cannot have that membership status be free, because we want to make sure they still have benefits. And so the biggest piece on changing this is just to make sure that our bylaws comply with law, and then how we actually take care of the emeritus membership. You know, if they're, you know, kind of what the benefits are, what the fees are. Those are things that will be discussed and thoughtfully put together later and discussed with the board. And that'll go into policy and procedure, not into the bylaws. The bylaws are really high level rules that we follow. Policies and procedures are more how we operate. And so that's how we'll be handling that.
Another question we had at one of our events is, what happens if I pay my dues late if the 6-month grace period goes away? So I will answer this question. So right now, our current process is that a late fee of $25 is charged when you've hit 45 days after your renewal date, which is the first of the month. And so this would be almost a month and a half after your renewal was due. So realistically, nothing would happen operationally before that time period. So you could be a day, a week late, and we would still maintain you. But it's more that this 6-month grace period is written into the bylaws, and that is a very restrictive approach. It's also unfair to those who pay their dues on time. So operationally, we would have some mechanism to make sure that people still have access. Another question we've had is, what are Robert's rules?
I'm gonna let Catherine take that one.
Well, basically, Robert's Rules is what associations or boards use in order to run a board meeting smoothly. So with everybody having knowledge on the procedures and how to, you know, do motions, how to vote, it just keeps the meetings nice and orderly. And so it's something that our association has adopted, and we've used it very successfully. But we're just, you know, making this amendment because we don't follow it, you know, as strictly as maybe some like big corporate boards. So we just don't feel it's necessary that we need to, you know, stand every time we say something, because we're a smaller board. So that's basically what Robert's Rules is. And I don't know if Nabil, you want to add more to that?
You nailed it. I mean, it's a way to have it. It's a way to have an orderly meeting. You nailed it. Another question. I'm anxious about electronic voting. Why are we doing that, and how will it work? So
I want to take that one, because that one's my most exciting one. I love it. So electronic voting is something that most organizations have moved to. And so this is us moving into the modern age, which is very exciting for me. And what it does is it allows us to have reminders. It allows us to actually make ballots that are easier to understand, especially when we start moving forward with additional bylaws changes. You can read the language, you can read the redlined language, and you can vote yes or no, and then go to the next one, and we don't have to have reams and reams of paper landing in your mailbox. Now, that being said, especially initially, we're going to have the option to still get a paper ballot, because we want people to be able to vote, and we don't want to lose people who want to do the paper voting rather than doing the electronic voting.
Okay, the perfect question. We do have one question from James. He asks, are there other needed changes to the bylaws that will come later, or are these the full revisions desired to date?
There's a lot of revisions needed, but maybe Nabila, you know more about it.
Yeah, I can answer that question. So at the beginning, we said there are 400 changes that are needed to the bylaws. These changes are roughly 50 or so. So there's literally another 350 changes to the bylaws needed. However, doing all of them at once would have made for a very confusing bylaws vote. And so the thought was to chunk it into more manageable pieces. So these 7 are the first really critical changes, either for legal reasons or for operational reasons. And then we will do it in a more systematic fashion, these bylaws changes in the future. So we'll be working with the bylaws committee and the board to organize that. Our goal is to do redlined versions with everything, so you see what's going on. But this way, we're not overwhelming people with 400 votes. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So we're doing it small pieces at a time.
And James says that at 50 is a great start.
Oh,
so
and a follow-up question. What if I like some of the bylaws changes, but not others? How will I vote? That is an excellent question. And who would like to field that?
I could take that. So when you get your ballot for the elections, you'll also get another ballot that will address these 7 bylaws, and you will be able to vote on them individually. So you don't have to vote yes on all of them or no on all of them. You will have the option to vote yes or no on each one. So that makes it, you know, fair.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Catherine. One more question. What happens if some of the amendments don't pass? So as a reminder of bylaws amendments, we need 222 people or 1% of the clinical members to vote. And of those voting members, we need a 2/3 majority, not a simple majority, 2/3 majority to pass. So would either of you like to answer that, or do you want to defer it to me?
I don't know that I know the answer. I know that if the bylaws change that we need to do that is part of compliance, which is the emeritus member, then we'd have to talk to legal counsel. But I think for the other changes, I'm not sure what happens if they don't pass.
I think, I mean, first we have to see what happens, right? Because obviously if members, you know, vote something down 20% to 80, that's a signal. But assuming if one or two don't pass by a small margin, like let's say they get 64% or 65%, I've seen bylaws votes occur with that level of difference, then likely those would go back for a second time, because we do feel all these changes are urgent, are necessary. For the emeritus membership, if the membership does not change the issue about the dues, we will have to go to counsel and legal counsel, and it is possible that we might have to eliminate the category. So it's actually it's better to maintain the status, to vote to remove the language about making this category free, so that we can preserve this membership status and honor those who have served so well in their career as a licensed marriage and family therapist. So we are waiting for some more questions, if there are any. These are all excellent questions. We got a question. So, what did everyone have for breakfast? I think people knew who that question is from. And so
I think it might be from Holly. I don't see it on here. I just wanted to clarify one thing with the last thing that you were saying, Nabil, is that if a bylaw amendment doesn't pass, I think we listen to the membership. We're not going to change something without having the membership approve it. And I think that's what you were saying.
Oh yeah,
back to the membership. We try to sort out what the concerns were and have some opportunity to discuss what what's going on so that we
I mean,
can.
but the likelihood is if they don't pass, it'll be they got a majority, but not the super majority that is needed. And I think
Yeah.
that is different than something that gets only 20% yes votes.
Yeah.
20% yes votes is a clear signal, and
Yeah.
I think we'd revisit something if that happened,
Yeah, for
or
sure.
do another education, efforts to educate people about that.
Yeah.
But that question is still lingering. What did people have for breakfast?
Take it away, Katie.
Well, I had a very delicious egg bite and some coffee. How about you, Catherine?
I had some coffee as well, and some string cheese, which I just love having in the morning.
String cheese. I had scrambled eggs and
Very nice.
vanilla macadamia nut coffee. So I got my last pod of vanilla macadamia nut coffee.
Ah, very nice.
As a reminder for folks, we're going to have our CAMFT Connects event at the Chapter Leadership Conference on February 21st, which is going to be in a little more than 3 weeks. And there will be another session live about the bylaws. This is to educate our chapter leaders, but that will be already when the voting period has started. So ballots will be coming out. Ballots should be dropping around Valentine's Day, with our goal that you receive it by the 19th or so. So we anticipate getting that out to you. But we're very excited about this Chapter Leadership Conference. We're going to have a great event, and this is part of that. CAMFT events talking again about the bylaws. And you could register for this event at www.camft.org/connects, CONNECTS. That event will be in the San Francisco, I think it's the Airport Westin. So we're going to be very close to the airport in Burlingame. So we welcome anyone, particularly in Northern California, the Westin SFO. So we welcome anyone in the Bay Area for whom it's pretty convenient to please join us. We'll also have a reception that afternoon, later that day. So this event is from 2:30 to 3:45. Then we'll have, I think, a 5 p.m. reception for people attending Chapter Leadership Conference.
Woohoo!
Do we know, Nabil, when or what the election end date is yet for these bylaws when it goes out? Like, do members have until a certain date that they need to?
Yes, the elections materials are due by March 19th. So we're mailing them on Valentine's Day, because what would a marriage and family therapist organization do? It's like a meaningful date for MFTs. But we're sending them out on Valentine's Day, and then receipt is required by March 19th, not a postmark date. Receipt, which means send it in well before March 19th. And as a reminder, we're using a vendor out of state, so it's not being sent to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually another way that we're being transparent and protecting your rights. We're having an independent organization count the ballots. So this is actually a pretty common strategy. The ballots will come together, as I think Catherine already pointed out, the election ballot and the bylaws ballot will come in the same envelope, and you'll send them back in the same envelope.
And Nabil, where can members find out about the candidates, like right now? Like if they don't want to wait for the ballot, where they get the candidate statements that's included, how can they find out more about who's running for what office now?
Sure, we have all the candidate bio statements are posted online at camft.org/election. That's election, ELECTION. And so you can get that information there. I hope one of my staff members is posting that link in the comments for the video or for the Facebook Live.
Hint, hint. And we got a comment from James Gay saying, thanks again for all of your leadership and for bringing CAMFT into 2020 with technology, or at least progress. So thanks, James, for all of your advocacy and support
James.
through the years too.
The bylaw, the ability to vote by electronic is so important, electronic voting, because we can get a mechanism where you'd get prompts, you'd get in a 30-day period 4 to 5 prompts, and each prompt does bring in more voters. And once you voted, you'd have an individualized link. Once you voted, your link is dead and you will be dropped from the reminders. And so we've seen in other organizations, in elections that I was in charge of, we saw participation increase by 300%. So we went from 500 to 1,500 votes by making this system. So
that's so awesome.
So we could really get some much more member engagement, and then have this green process that is better. There would be a fair number of little changes that would have to happen. We're going to eventually have to do an opt-in to get just the electronic ballot, which I highly encourage, because we spend a lot of money and waste a lot of paper to send ballots out. So while it is, we'll probably be doing a lot of that the first year, but I'm hoping by 2022 that we can really start to see some real impact in a reduction of ballots going out. As a reminder, the bylaws process is also posted online, camft.org/bylaws process, BYLAWS PROCESS, and you can get all the information you want about these bylaws changes. So everything that we've described is here. And these links are also in the Facebook comments. So
comments below.
Yeah, so look right there.
Right here.
Bill, also, I just thought something else too. Like after we do this, after we have the election and members vote on these bylaws, do we have a date in mind of when we would roll out the next bylaws we want to present to the members and, you know, for voting? Would that be like the next year?
I'm going one step at a time.
You're moving us too quick, Catherine.
Given CAMFT's history on recent bylaws, we're going in baby steps. And right now we're at a very nice spot. We're going to see the election and then we'll assess. There is a lot on our plate right now, so it might be a few months before we get to the next set of bylaws. We have not sorted them yet in a particular order for them for the next round, and that would be under your term as president, Catherine. So we would have a good conversation about that. There's a couple of approaches to go the most urgent ones, or to go more section and clean up sections at a time. So that way we clean up one section and then go to another section, or clean up 2 sections or something like that. So it is not clear to me what we're going to do yet. I think we will wait and see.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to note that this is a Facebook Live, so as soon as we finish, the video will be here, so you can watch it back from the beginning. And if there's a question that you have that you want to make sure that we answer, please tag @CAMFT, and CAMFT team will come back and take care of the question, make sure we've answered everything. And I don't know if we're going to also, and we're also going to share the video by email with all the members. So if you are just tuning in right now, don't worry. You can still see the video because it'll be posted again after we finish up. And just tag us and put questions in the comments and we can answer anything that you have.
Okay, it is almost 3:30. We haven't had any more questions on Facebook for a few minutes. So we are going to wrap this up. As you can see, this is a really relatively small number of changes, 7 specific changes, about 50 edits in the bylaws. And I want to thank Katie and Catherine for taking time out of their very busy days both are in private practice, and so this is a big deal. So I appreciate
You're welcome, Nabil.
volunteering your time. And Katie, do you want to say anything as we wrap up?
I just am very, very grateful that CAMFT is being very thoughtful to have this process roll out in the way it is. I think that it's so important to have this level of transparency and clarity. And as we make these changes, there's going to be even more communication and clarity because of the electronic voting, because of the process that we're able to send more information electronically. So really make sure that you take a look at these when these come in your mailbox, that you definitely vote, and you look through and make all of the votes that you need to make so that we can keep moving CAMFT into this century, because it's very exciting. And the new decade. But thank you, Nabil, for your leadership on this. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate the whole CAMFT staff and all of the volunteers, the board members, the bylaws committee people, the advocates, the random members with lots of thoughts. I appreciate everyone just really participating in this process. It really makes us, a stronger organization.
Absolutely.
How about you, Catherine? Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Oh, I just second what you said, Katie. I think that was perfect. And the transparency for the bylaws is the most important, because the members have asked for it. And that's why we're doing these, Facebook Lives, and why we went up to Northern California and down here in Southern California as well, just because we want to inform the members. So there's no confusion or mistake about how we're doing this process. And if they have questions, they can always contact us too.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us for this Facebook Live chat. And with that, have an amazing week. Thank you.
Bye.